Google announced that for people who are doing their beta test of the Google Glass, which is their new interface that they have for the glasses, I'm sure. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably heard of it. But they were basically saying that anybody who is issued these or given or the early access to the beta period, they're calling it, you cannot sell or lend it to anyone. You are the only one that's allowed to use it. And I'll read the Google Glass terms that they have up on their website that I will link. It says, unless otherwise authorized by Google, you may only purchase one device and you may not resell, loan, transfer, or give your device to any other person. If you resell, loan, transfer, or give your device to any other person without Google's authorization, Google reserves the right to deactivate the device, and neither you nor the unauthorized person using the device will be entitled to any refund, product support, or product warranty.
Is that just for the beta period, or is that for the thing in general?
It doesn't say.
Okay, so are we just going under the assumption that it's the product in general?
For discussion, we can say, but in real life, I think it's just the beta.
Okay. So if this is about the product in general, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
And Google can go to hell.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this whole if you look at, say, Apple versus Google or iOS versus Android, Google is praised as the great company and the savior of everything. This is just one of those things that shows that, Google is a company that wants control of their own products, and this just gives them more control on their products even after they sell it to you, after you paid your $1,000 to purchase it.
$1,500.
They still have control over it.
Yeah, but I think that if it is the case that it's only during the beta that you're allowed, then I am totally fine with that, considering that they have I can't remember the Google Glass Explorer. That's what they're calling them. The first people that they're issuing these, you had to there was a contest, I believe, and you had to do something or sign up for it, and then they would give you the beta of the Google Glass just to test out and get in the public.
Beta,
right?
I understand, because that's an exclusive club. That is an exclusive club. But if this is real, the product in general, and you buy it with your own money, you should be allowed to do whatever the hell you want with what you buy.
As long as it falls within the laws.
Yes.
I agree.
You can't take something and go murder somebody with it. That might
My Google Glass death ray.
Who knows what developers can do?
You're not allowed to beat anyone to death with your Google Glass.
No.
Do not break into small parts and jam down someone's throat.
And lasers come out of your eyes. But I was talking to Will before we started recording, and I was just thinking, say if a person buys Google Glass, and then a year later he or she becomes blind, and they can no longer use Google Glass.
And they have this policy that you're not allowed to sell it in place, right?
Yeah. Now, you can't even lend it to somebody without Google's authorization. Now, I would understand, if you told that to Google, they would probably say, okay, fine, you can lend it to, or you can give it to somebody else or something. But that's just a pain in the ass process.
Just to interrupt, to go through this process, you would have to climb a mountain up to Google's headquarters, and they would be sitting on golden thrones, and you would have to get down on your hands and knees and be like, please, sire, let me sell this. I have been stricken blind. And then they would be like, okay, and then they would bang a staff, and it would echo through the whole hall, and then they would come and take it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just saying, the process to actually doing it, that's just stupid.
It would probably cost you about $1,000 just to get through, anyways.
You would probably have to call Google, go on one of their support lines. Please hold. Please hold.
And then,
your
10 years later,
is very important to us.
You have a better,
so we respect that you're holding.
You have a better chance of your vision being spontaneously cured than you do of actually talking to someone on the Google line.
Exactly. And, okay, remember the whole debate over whether or not you can sell digitally purchased games?
Mm-hmm.
And how, I believe it was sometime last year, some European court basically said, yeah, you can do that. You're entitled to sell whatever the hell you buy.
Yep.
That applies to
Germany.
Too. Oh, it was Germany? Well, yeah. That should apply everywhere. You should be able to sell or do whatever the hell you want with anything you buy.
Well, this is different in the fact that it's an actual concrete thing, not a digital copy. So,
Even then,
even more so.
Yeah,
it
you should be able to do whatever the hell you
Yeah.
want with something that's physical. Like, I believe that whole digital game copy thing that's just more of like a shot to the publisher's arm saying you can't do that. Like, they can do what they want. Like, they actually probably can't resell it because it's a digital copy, but they have the right to do what they want.
Yeah, it's just thinking that you could resell it if you had all
it's
of
more or
in
less
place.
the thought.
Yeah.
Well, because if they do have
comforting.
something like this implemented, how long is it going to be until you can't resell your MacBook or your iMac or whatever, right?
Yeah, like if they do this and Google Glass becomes a ridiculously popular product,
Which it probably will.
yeah, this is the first of its kind. I can imagine it's going to be a pretty good product, or like the first of its kind that's going to mass market. It's going to be, and if it becomes really big, what's to stop like what you were saying, Lee? Other companies doing this. Like you buy your iPhone, you can't sell it back to us, you can't sell it to anybody, you can't give it to anybody else, and if we find out that you do that, we will shut down your product, and you won't be able to use it, they won't be able to use it, and you won't be able to do anything with it.
And then you'll have a $1,500 really sucky paperweight.
Pretty much. It's basically them saying, here, give me $1,000 for this, I will give this to you, yet I still have 100% control over what you can do with that.
The bottom line is if something like that was happening, then I even if it was the most awesome product and everybody used it, something, I guess a lot of people would argue Apple, but a lot of people have iPhones. We all have iPhones here for NERDcast, right? And it is a very good product for what it provides. Arguably overpriced. I'm pretty sure this is like, you could match this up with another podcast that we've had. But, if something like that happens where it's like, okay, no, you can't resell this, I'm just not going to buy the product. Like, if it's going to be that bothersome for me to get your product and use it and keep control over it, then I can't be bothered. I'm going to go elsewhere.
It's not consumer friendly, and that's what everyone's saying about. Remember last week when we talked about the Xbox being always on? There are people who I've talked to who said no. Like, if it's always on, I'm not going to get it.
Exactly, and there are a lot of things that are happening in the market now that are restricting customers, but and people complain about them, but yet they still go out and buy it. And this is exactly the thing I was saying even before in the thing that we had, where the consumer has to be somewhat responsible for what they buy. They can't just buy it, say it's not what they expected, and then bitch.
Yeah, like, you can bet there's going to be someone somewhere who, like, buys this thing. Actually, what would happen with gifts with it? That's interesting. Here, I bought you this Google Glass. Oh, no, you can't use it because my name's on it. Oh, well.
But,
Merry Christmas. You can't use it.
They did.
Pretty much.
They did say that there is a guest mode in the ones that they're issuing for this beta period, so that if somebody can test out like what they're doing for I don't even know if it's a certain period of time, but it would be like the basic functions and you can't alter anything or save anything kind of to it. So if I had one and I wanted to let one of you guys do it, I could just set it to guest mode and then you guys could use it. And then the great big brother eye in the sky that Google has wouldn't say, oh, we've got unauthorized personnel using the Google device number 1274 in sector 8. And it was like, zap him, and then the satellite just shoots some sort of EMP device into it, right? Which is funny because that's kind of how would they deactivate the device, or how would they know that somebody else is using it or that you sold it?
Well, I know that I mentioned earlier to Danny, what if they had, like, a really big database of retina scans?
Oh, yeah, they, like, scan your retina, yeah.
And if it wasn't your retina, we're shutting this thing down.
So then would this have some sort of, like, always online DRM that would scan your retina every certain period of time to make sure that you were the one using it?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Like, that would just be, like, no offense, that'd be pretty cool. But fuck you.
Yeah, welcome to the digital age.
That's so intrusive, it's not funny.
Once again, welcome to the digital age where we are constantly being watched.
So, what conditions do you think would have to exist for something like this to be a viable business model? So, like, what if they were actually going to come forth and say, hey, you can't resell this or you can't lend it to anybody, what else would they have to have in place in this thing that would allow you to actually still want to use it and have that as an effective thing that people would still buy it?
Give me a week and I'll come back to you with an answer because I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I don't know, like unlimited free internet access or something?
It would have to be something big.
Yeah, it'd have to be something really big.
They'd have to compromise. Big
here,
time.
click this button and we will bring you a Ferrari wherever you are within 5 minutes.
Or even if it was something like, if it's out of date, or we do some sort of update like that, because that would also be one of the biggest problems, would be that they're going to get into some sort of rhythm where it was like, buy the Google Glass 10 the next year, and then the year after that will be the Google Glass 11, right? And then, or whatever it is.
A free upgrade or something.
So it would have to, like, if it was where you could only use it and you could just trade it in, then I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's still very iffy.
It's going to be interesting.
And this is also assuming that this is a product people are going to buy and use, which is still up in the air, right?
If it's reasonably priced and a decent product, I might consider it. Would it work with people? How does it work with people with glasses already?
I believe you can clip it onto like certain prescription glasses.
Yeah, it's fully functional with people for glasses, like, because the way I saw a thing, it was very complicated because I have no idea like how optics or anything like that work, right? Well, I have some idea of how like light refracts and reflects, but it was basically saying that the light it beams into your eye works with your glasses, so that it'll refract like through your glasses and then focus on the point of its eye that it needs to go, so it'll adjust through that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that if you're.
It'll be interesting.
It would still be, yeah. It would have to have a way to hook onto the frame because it would be like you're wearing two pairs of glasses.
Well, that's not a problem. Like when I worked at the local pool a couple of years ago, I hate contact lenses, so I wore my glasses all the time. And I just picked up some clip-on sunglasses things from Shoppers Drug Mart. This had like 4 hooks on them, and they just went on the outside of my glasses. It was pretty cool.
But it didn't have a computer virtual interface, did it?
No, there were no computer virtual interfaces in my clip-on sunglasses.
How badass did you look?
I looked pretty badass.
That's all that matters.
Did you also have like the Speedo, the red Speedo, and the sunscreen on your nose?
No and no.
So you were that cool.
I was the cool lifeguard. I'd just like to point that out. I was the cool one.
But yeah,
I was also the least. But yeah, anyway, go on.
I think that this is only for the beta because people had to apply for this. People had a contest, right?
It has to be exclusive.
And it's also the fact that somebody could apply for this and then say, "Hey, I have a an exclusive beta copy of Google Glass. Who's going to buy it from me for $10,000?" Right? I think that's
people
the biggest
will pay
thing
for that.
Yeah,
Hardcore nerds will buy that.
That's the biggest thing that I think Google is trying to prevent. Like, because I'm assuming that it was given out to either people who are tech journalists, tech like reviewers sort of things, and just other people in the industry, or even like it's got to be somebody that's going to get them out in the public, right? Celebrities, because they can't really just release it and then like it's going to be intrusive, right? There's people that are already saying there's laws that's going to make it illegal. It's going to be under the like the handheld device while driving law, so you can't even, if it's powered on, you get a ticket like you would if you were texting.
Mm-hmm.
And people are also saying that it's going to be like infringing on like voyeur laws because you can film discreetly and nobody would know whether or not you're filming.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still very much up in the air in terms of whether or not it's going to be used and whether or not it's going to be legal, and there's still a lot of variables.
But it's still freaking cool.
Yes, it is. So I think it's still very soon in its life cycle, and I think that anything talking about not allowing resale is just about this beta period.
Yeah. I understand it completely for beta. It makes sense. It's fair. But once they get out of beta, I want to be able to sell my Google Glass or lend it. Well, not me, but anyone else.
The way I see it, like, yeah, like if you want to lend it to somebody, like, hey, look at this cool thing I got. Try it out. Get word of mouth out there. More sales.
Well, that's why they have the guest account for this beta. But yeah, I don't think it would be like if I said, check out this video clip I have, or read this read the statement that somebody put up here, or something like that, or a tweet, and I hand you the glasses, and then you look at it, and then it's just like improper biometric signature, and then you get like 5,000 volts jammed through your head.
It's like that South Park episode with the Trapper Keeper, and when someone tries to steal Cartman's, you get spikes through your hand.
So I don't think that that's gonna happen, but
no. Well, wait, no.
So I'm still interested in this Google Glass. If it was reasonably priced,
right.
I think if I was aware of this, I definitely would have threw NERDcast's name in the ring just for the hell of it. It's probably not going to happen, but it doesn't hurt.
Would have been cool though.
All of a sudden, we try that one day and we get an email back as you have been registered for a beta copy, and we're just like, we have made it, everyone.
I would shit my pants, like just
We're going to Mars.
Like, yeah, I'm willing to resell my copy of Google Glass for 3 tickets to Mars.
I'm willing to sell my copy of Google Glass for full astronaut training and a full trip there and back from Mars.
I just had a crazy thought.
What happens if you go to astronaut camp?
If you put Google Glass on, and then you put Google Glass over Google Glass, does it create like some sort of
into Tron,
like some time-dimensional shattering of the rift, other science words, and then
you are able to see ghosts?
You just spin into an abyss.
In the bottom left-hand corner, about 3 pixels from the right, you can see Mark.
He is 1 pixel wide.
1 pixel wide and 1,000,000 pixels deep.
You can see into other dimensions if you're wearing 2 Google Glasses. So Mark skips into the 3rd dimension so you can't find him.
Yeah.